Thank you for listening to The Pain of the Claim, your source for prescription strength claim relief. And now, your hosts, Jeremy and Donna Lavelle.
We've got a really big treat today on the Pain of the Claim podcast. We've got Vince Perri with us. I'm really excited about this. I met Vince in a course that I took, believe it or not, and learned so much about it. Vince, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jeremy. Thank you for having me, Donna.
You're welcome.
We are super pumped. I know we got to hang out this past weekend, which was really cool to kind of see you. And you and I have been doing a lot of talking and planning and discussing about kind of where we're headed. But before we get into all of that, just kind of tell us your story a little bit, Vince. I mean, I know you've done all kinds of things from, travel. And I know you're a big traveler. You were a tennis coach at one point in time. Just kind of tell us your journey that got you into working the exciting world of claims.
Well, get me working the exciting world of claims was basically, I was a tennis coach at the time, and I was teaching tennis to this guy. So I would always teach group lessons in the afternoon, ladies tennis in the morning. And before or after the ladies clinic, I'd have a couple private lessons scheduled. And before or after the afternoon classes with the kids, I'd have a couple private lessons scheduled, because that's really where the money was at when you're teaching private lessons. What was I charging? I think I was charging like $70 or $80 an hour for a private lesson. And all of a sudden, I'm ready to go home on an evening, and the front desk calls me and say, hey, we have a new student here, and the coach that they were supposed to do the lesson with, it's his first student, and the coach bailed. Do you want to take this lesson? I said, hell yeah, I'm always getting after it. I'm like, yeah, I'll hustle for another lesson. Why not? So it was this guy who ended up scheduling 2 private lessons with me in the mornings, and he would physically bring his kids for 2 private lessons in the evening. And after we were doing lessons for about a month or so, you get into conversations in the middle of the tennis lesson. And I was like, what do you do for a living? And he's like, I'm a public adjuster. And I'm like, what the hell is that? I had no idea what it was at the time. And obviously I'm like, what am I? I'm like 22 years old, and like any other 22 or 23-year-old, you think that your time is running out and, oh my God, I'm still a tennis instructor, and what am I doing with my life? Little did I know I was only 22, right? But he tells me what a public adjuster is. And my dream before that, I don't know I think I've told this story pretty much a few times, but my dream was always to be a sports agent. Like, that was my dream from when I was in elementary school. My dream was to be a stockbroker. And then when I got to like middle school and high school, I saw Jerry Maguire and something else. I forgot what it was. And my dream became to be a sports agent. Like, I knew my personality type, and I was like, I think this is like perfect for me. I love sports. I could represent clients. I can do all this and that. And that was my dream, like heavy, all throughout high school and throughout college. And then that's why I majored in sports management, because I wanted to be sports managing, that's like where you go. And then I find out later, I don't know why I didn't know this before, especially with all like the studying and stuff that I was doing. I find out later that most sports agent, not all, but most sports agents are actually attorneys.
Yep.
So I'm like, like I'm a 3.0 GPA guy. I'm like 1,000. And I'm actually probably going over like SAT guy. Like, I'm not a good student. I'm not a good test taker. I was just always very, very, very average in school. And to be average, I studied my ass off. I'm not that guy that was like, oh, it's because I didn't try. No, I worked my butt off for that 3.0 GPA. And that was kind of a bummer. But again, it was my dream for so long. I started studying the LSAT. I'm studying the LSAT. Again, super below average grade that I end up getting. Took a Kaplan course and everything. And then I realized, okay, well, maybe this is not the dream for me, because every other sports agent is like a former athlete or an attorney. So I'm like, maybe this is not for me. So, whatever. I went on with my teaching tennis, and I start teaching this guy, and he tells me about public adjuster, and I go home and I Google search it, I research it, and I actually ran into a blog that literally compared a public adjuster to a sports agent. How you represent your client or you represent your athlete, and you are negotiating against the insurance company or negotiating against the team. And you're just sort of trying to get, you're trying to get what they deserve, what their talent is deserved. And after I read that blog, that was it. That was it. I was sold. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I went back the next lesson. I told him like, this is awesome. I want to do this. And he said, this was right before the apprenticeship started in Florida. And he said, well, before you start, nothing about insurance, you should get a job on the inside. But what he did tell me is like, don't stop teaching tennis, because your tennis lessons, your students, and everybody that you see on a daily basis are going to be referral sources for you. So he said, keep teaching tennis and try to get a job on the inside. Again, I applied and applied and applied. I ended up getting my independent adjuster's license. I applied to a bunch of independent adjusting firms and a bunch of insurance companies, and I just never got hired. I never got a call back. Maybe I would get a call back. Maybe I'd get an interview, and I wouldn't get hired. And I tried for, what feels like a year. It was probably like 4 months or 5 months. And again, the thought set in. I'm like, well, maybe this is not for me. And then I get a random call from State Farm. And State Farm calls me and says, hey, we wanted to bring you in for an interview. I had applied like 3 months. It was like one of the first places that I applied to. And they called me, and I was one of I think it was like 9 of us all hired at the same time. And they switched my license over to a company adjuster. I had a new girlfriend at the time, and I was like, all right, I'm going to give this a shot, right? This is the first time. I was always teaching tennis. I've been an independent contractor my whole life. This is the 1 year that I wasn't. And I get hired, and they're just like, I think it was $39,000 a year is what my salary was. $39,000 a year, and benefits and all those great things included. I'm like, hey, this is probably amazing. Let me give this a shot. Get benefits and all this and steady income for the first time in my life. And yeah, that lasted 1 year. 1 year that lasted. And I was just like, I'm out of here. And I did it in 2008 was it 2008 or 2000? I became a public adjuster officially in 2009. So this is the year of 2008, which was, the recession, the Great Recession. And State Farm used to always drill to us. They used to just always drill and just say, you should be lucky to have a job. Stop complaining. You should be lucky to have a job. And it was the worst job. They told you when to go to the bathroom, when to go to lunch, when to be on the call, when to be on emails, working 9 to 5 under fluorescent lights. It was terrible. And I just quit. I called the guy and I said, hey, can you get me a spot, like an apprenticeship, first year of apprenticeship, which was a year at that time? And he said, yeah, come on over. So I quit. I put in my 2 weeks notice. After 2 days, they're like, you know what? You don't have to say the 2 weeks, you can go. And as I was walking out, I said goodbye to all the friends that I made over that year. And I literally, not kidding, got a standing ovation from everybody in the floor and all their cubicles, because they saw that I was leaving, and I had said bye, but then they saw I was there. They all got up, and they're all just like,
there's your Jerry Maguire moment. There's your Jerry Maguire moment right there. You wrote your treatment.
It was the Jerry Maguire. It was hilarious. It was because everybody, that job was just awful.
Well, funny, Vince, that you mentioned that, and true story. My very first deployment as an adjuster was actually for cars. It's an auto deployment in Columbia, South Carolina. And I stood in the tent, and I worked the tent and in South Carolina in July. It was awesome.
Yeah, I bet.
And so, and they would threaten us with our job every day. We were IAs, and they would just, there's lots of people who want this job. You should consider yourself lucky that you even got deployed. I don't even know why we hire rookies anymore. Went on and on and on. And I'm dead serious. We had this little lull that they scheduled around lunchtime. They would schedule fewer cars to come in. And so the lull came in, and one of the staffers is sitting behind the table settling, and basically says, this would be a good time if you want to go to the restroom. This would be a good time for you to go.
Why was it a good time for you to go to the restroom?
Because it was slow in the tent, and she didn't want me going to the restroom when it was busy or whatever. And I have never, as a grown man, now look, I'm in my 40s. And she is dismissing me from work to go to the restroom. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. And if I need to go when it's busy, I'll go then. And so that was the end of my career with State Farm as far as an adjuster goes. It was absolutely terrible. I agree.
Yeah. And that's the same issue I had. And it's the same way I treat, the employees, and I treat everybody that works for us, is like, we're adults. And, and again, I was an independent contractor. I always made my own schedule with lessons. Sure, I had to be there for certain group lessons, and I had to be there for my private lessons, but ultimately I mean, I was making my own schedule. And I remember there was like a little going away party when I stopped teaching tennis for that 1 year, because then I started teaching tennis again. There was a going away party, and one of my students, his parents, was telling me, be careful what you wish for. Because I was all excited, right? Oh, I'm good, man. I got steady income. I'm going to have benefits, and I'm going to have retirement and all these things, 401k. I'm like, this is great. I never had any of that. I didn't even have insurance. And I'm like, I'm going to get all this is going to be included. He's like, be careful what you wish for. I'll never forget when he told me that. The guy from England, I remember, he told me that. And it's the same way, like, don't tell me when to go to the bathroom. Don't tell me when I'm supposed to be on the phones. Don't tell me, like, that does make no sense to me. And it's the reason why, like, at Elite Resolutions, employees included, obviously independent contractors, of course, but the employees, we have unlimited vacation time. I don't do 2 weeks vacation. I don't provide 3 weeks vacation. Like, there's no, what is it, PTO and all that stuff. It's like, whenever you need off, you're an adult, take off. Let me know beforehand. And if it's a long time off you're going to take, try to prepare everything for that. Make sure it's good to go. But I just feel like I can't tell people what to do. And I mean, we're adults. It doesn't make any sense to me, but that's the way it is.
Well, I mean, I cannot agree with you more. I don't know how. I would assume that the people that you're hiring, though, aren't looking to take advantage of that. They actually love what they do, and it's hard to find some people, like, either you love this industry or you hate it. It's either something that you get a hold of, or it's something that you don't, and you just don't, and you don't want to pursue it. I mean, I think that that's awesome that you don't have any sort of, like, it's unlimited time off. That's
Yeah,
man.
I was in a coaching. I'm part of Strategic Coach now by Dan Sullivan, and we go to 4 times a year. We all meet in person. I'm literally in a room with how many people? I think there's about 34 people in there, and they're all entrepreneurs, and a lot of them are much more successful than I am. And we were going over that, and the idea of Strategic Coach, which you would probably like this very much, Jeremy, is to be able to schedule your weeks in a way that provides you what they call buffer days, preparing for your focus days and free days. And they harp on making sure that you have free days, and free days is just literally disconnecting completely from your job. And one guy asked a question. He's like, look, we're all entrepreneurs. We all run our own business. He's like, but I've got 2 scenarios for you that I don't think this would make sense. First scenario is like, if you work for a multinational firm that's got stocks and all that, and you're like GM of something like this, like, how are you going to have free days when, like, there's a lot riding on that? But he also said, he's like, what about, like, my employees? If they see I'm taking all these free days and, they're out there working, like, how's that going to look? And I actually raised my hand and I told the entire group about our vacation policy and our free day policy. And it was the weirdest thing. Again, a lot of these guys have a lot more money than I do, much more successful. And they kept coming up to me after. They're just like, how do you do that? And I'm like, how do you not?
Right.
Hire adults.
They keep asking, but they're like, don't they take for weeks at a time? And I said, you'll be surprised. They take not much free days at all. Like my one assistant, Tammy, she loves the fact that she could literally, I've never said no once. Hey, I need to get my hair done on Friday. Go. Take the day off. Hey, I need to do this on Friday. Oh, but I'll only be gone for the afternoon. I'll come back. I'm like, okay, whatever. You can take the day off. And she's like, no, I'll come back. And then Milan, who does all the social media stuff, he asked for 2 days off coming up. But I remember we were going heavy, I'd say about last year. And I can tell he was burnt. He was burnt out. And I told him, I said, you need to take a week off. And he took a week off. And then fast forward again, about 6 months later, he felt it. I didn't notice he was burnt out. He felt it. He's like, I'm taking a full week off. And I was actually a little upset about it. He doesn't know this. I was just like, cause we had the course coming up and we had, I think, the Miami meetup coming up. And I'm like, man, he's taking a week off now and we got to, like, start promoting, but I kept my mouth shut. I stuck with my guns and it ended up being all right, and and I don't bother people. That's another thing, is when they take free days, I make it a point not to bother them whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's in Vince. What an awesome way to keep the morale where it should be. Even when the CEO or the head guy walks up and says, hey, you need to take a week off, because I mean, that's one of the things I probably struggle with the most is I do work a lot. Donna works a lot. We're always kind of, the wheels are always turning and it's hard to turn it off. And, we had kind of not too long ago, we would take Sundays off. We would work Saturdays in the office, full work day, and then we would take Sunday off. And it was so funny when Monday would come around, it was so hard to get moving again because we just couldn't. I mean, we finally had gotten relaxed enough. And so there were a couple of Mondays there that we just skipped just because we needed them as mental health days. And I know for a fact, you've got to take a break because this stuff will get on top of you, even emotionally. I mean, the amount of rejection that you go through, and it's like people telling you no, or basically, it feels like you're being gaslighted. Is gaslighted a word or is it gaslit?
Gaslit.
I think it'd be gaslit.
Well, that's one for the editors, I guess. But you kind of feel that way. I was on the phone with an adjuster this morning, and she kept saying her 2 adjusters didn't find anything. I'm like, okay, but what about what I sent you? Will you look at what I
found
sent you?
something.
I said, I found something. Can you please look at what I found? And of course, she ends up saying, I don't think that that's hail damage. And convincing them of this, and it's just like she thought it was
exhausting.
Yeah, it is exhausting and it's discouraging. And I mean, and you got to get back to center. You've got to think about it and you've got to go, why is it that I do this? Do I do this because I win, or do I do this because people genuinely need my help?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty about what we do as public adjusters is ultimately our number one thing is to help others. We know what goes on the other side, you especially. It's a shame that they do it, but, we are here to help. We are here to do whatever we can. And that's what makes this job rewarding. That's what makes it all worthwhile. I had a buddy of mine, I have a cousin of mine, and his wife was actually telling me, she's like, at least what you do helps others. What does she do? She designs she lives in New York and she designs like fashion clothes. And she sometimes feels empty doing what she does because all she's doing is designing these like fashionista clothes for like people who have a lot of money. And it's like, and I'm like, yeah, but people need clothes. People need clothes. It's like, you're making clothes. Like that's actually pretty important when you think about it. But that's what is great about what we do is it does help others for sure.
Well, and that, I got into this based on the moral imperative because my transition was a little bit more organic and gradual because I was looking for work in between deployments. So I would work with roofers and I would write their supplements for them. And then I started looking at what was passing. I mean, not just passing the carrier, but it was getting all the way to the homeowner, and they were really poorly written estimates. And I kind of noticed this. And so my supplement, so I would call up and go, yeah, we need supplements for this. This evidently was left off. They didn't do any of this. And then I remember the first time I got a pushback. And believe it or not, it was on O&P, and we had like 11 trades, but it was all outside. And I could never, it was baffling to me that he said, we don't pay O&P. And I was like, well, what do you, and that was the first pushback I got on it. And so I kind of hung up the phone and I sort of walked away, kind of mumbling to myself going, what just happened here? What do you mean you don't pay O&P? And
it still happens.
And yeah, I know. Obviously, I know a lot better now. I started, I researched, I found out that this was this ongoing argument that I was completely unaware of because at that time as an IA, I had the authority to put O&P on anything 3 trades or more. The only caveat to that is one of the trades could not be a labor minimum trade. So if the labor minimum was straight, that's what I was taught when I became an adjuster. 3 trades that don't have labor minimums on them. And that's how we were taught.
It's such crap though, because I mean, at least here in Florida, I know it's different in Texas. I've worked my share amount, I don't know, of claims in Texas, and you guys have it. I think you guys have it a lot harder than we do here. Obviously, with everything going on in Florida, it's making our lives much more difficult as well. But ultimately, when you get to a higher level adjuster in-house, that has the authority to just negotiate with you, it makes life a lot easier. So like, for instance, today, I literally settled a roof only claim, no, roof and garage claim for $68,000. And my estimate was $76,000. And the only reason why I settled, and by the way, O&P was included, that's what made me think about this story. O&P was included. I basically, when I negotiated, I said, look, here's my generals, here's my permit. I thought my permitting costs, which I got to call my estimator about that. I think my permitting costs were a little high. And I looked at the generals, and it's a bunch of pack out and stuff, which I know is necessary, but I want to get the claim settled. So I told them that I would split my generals and I would split the cost of the permit. And I didn't say anything about this is a roof only claim. I didn't say anything about the O&P, and I settled it for $68,000, and that was it. It was done. So it's just weird. Like, that's why, I know some people hate the term insurance claim game, but I mean, ultimately, especially here in Florida, a lot of it is like an insurance claim game, because they're coming and throwing at you. Like on this claim, the reason why we were able to settle it for so high was because the insured contacted us because the insurance company asked them to sign a release. Like,
yeah,
undisputed, here, sign this release. And the guy was like, I don't think I should sign this. So I get involved, and I couldn't believe that. And then he calls me. He's like, hey, let's settle it. I end up getting my estimate later on. And anyway, we were like negotiating, and we didn't agree on anything. And then he sends another release for like less. And I'm like, what's going on here? So then my estimator finally gives me my estimate, and it goes from like 50 to 80,000, and he wasn't happy. And he goes, I'm sending an engineer. And I'm like, why does that feel like a threat? First of all, you've already admitted coverage. You already said you're going to pay it by sending 2 freaking releases, by trying to settle the claim. Now you're sending an engineer. Like, what's the point of you sending an engineer? The only reason why you would send an engineer is for causation. Like, you've already got estimates here. So then he sends the engineer, and it just became a whole thing where I sent an email, and I threw out bad faith in there, which a lot of times I don't. We filed a complaint. I said, you sent the guy an estimate, a release on this date. Then you sent it him again on this date. Oh, and then he requested an EUO, and now you want an EUO for absolutely no reason. I demand that this claim be reassigned. And then 2 days later, I got the adjuster to send me a new adjuster, and he revoked the EUO, called me today, and we settled it. Like, you know how much money they're saving, right? By literally paying me from what he was offering. I think it was like probably an extra 25,000 or something like that, when we're going to end up there anyway. And now we're saving a year in litigation, and God knows how much, because, attorney fees and costs are going to equal probably 20,000 alone. So if they would do this more often, it'd be so much easier for everybody, but they don't.
Well, I mean, you said that so beautifully. I don't really have anything to add to it. I have no idea what the only thing that I can figure is the money that they make on the float. You know what I mean? The benefit to the delay, and I don't know if that is some sort of financial.
No, it works out, right? Like, at the end of every year, insurance companies get audited, and they get audited based on claim payouts and then policy revenue, premium income, right?
Yeah.
And it's got to be at a certain amount every year. It doesn't really matter. So it's the reason for the delay, because the longer that they delay, the more premiums are coming in, which is, it's just the nature of the beast. So by going to litigation, even though ultimately it may cost them more on that particular claim, not really. When you think about delaying it a year and how much premium they're getting in, it's all math.
Yeah,
they've got their underwriters doing all that. They know exactly what they're doing. I'm sure they know, because I break a lot of numbers down in my own business, and it's not an insurance company. I'm sure they know like exactly what their profit loss is and potential profit loss, just based on a 1 month delay, a 3 month delay, a 1 year delay. And I'm sure they include the cost of litigation, the average cost of litigation, multiplied or divided by the 6 months delay and 6 months of premium coming in. Like, they got all that stuff figured out, and I'm sure it's still on the positive.
Well, oh yeah, absolutely. It's on the positive. They continue to profit every year. There's no doubt about that. I mean, that's reported. Yeah. When it comes to, one of the things that we've seen, especially here in Texas, because we have a lot of hail that happens here. And for Texas, this is our catastrophe season. Basically, from February until June is kind of Texas's catastrophe season, whether it's tornadoes, hail, occasionally we get a really good freeze, that no one is prepared for or takes precautions for. And we see a lot of damage during this time of the year. But hail claims have become increasingly difficult to work simply because of how the carriers are approaching them. I have never seen more bona fide hail damage in my life that they look at it and go, nope, that's just granule loss. That's just normal wear and tear. That's not hail damage. That's just granule loss. And I've got to think that because they used to pay for it. So, I mean, they know what they're looking at. And the people that we actually get to talk to on the phone are given their script of their reply as to what it's going to be and what they're going to call it. And they just maintain their lie. They just stick with their lie, and all the way down to an attorney making them pay for it. And a lot of that is their premium dollars do not reflect the amount of what materials cost during an actual given loss is one of the factors that I think is that we've seen steady increases in materials since 2020. Basically since the pandemic and the supply chain issues that we've had. And not to get into the macroeconomics of everything, but I got to think that that's part of the reason that we're seeing just this rash of denials out of the major carriers across the country.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of claims. I think it's skyrocketed a lot. When I first started, the roofing industry wasn't really in the restoration insurance claims industry, not nearly as much, not from what I remember. I think I might have told you on Saturday, I was telling Cal about it, but when I first started, if there wasn't a wind event, and I mean event by name storm, tropical storm or hurricane, I wouldn't even get up on the roof. Yeah. And, it's changed, right? Right now, if you get, strong wind gusts and stuff like that, you go up there. Obviously in Miami, we never really had hail. Tampa, we don't have much hail. Orlando, I'm surprised, has a lot of hail, but hail is a different story. But at least for us with wind, if it wasn't a significant event, we wouldn't even get up there. But now it seems like there's a lot of claims going on. So I understand their reason for doing it. We just gotta like stay strong, man. We gotta keep up the good fight ultimately and keep up our arguments. Luckily, you and I, we live in a state where we have attorney fees and costs, right?
Yeah.
And we have to use that to our advantage. Does that mean send every claim to litigation? Absolutely not. But don't be afraid to do so, And also you got to look at your bottom line too, right? As a business owner, you do one of two things, in my opinion, is as soon as you hit that roadblock and they're delaying, then go to litigation, right?
That's what I say.
What's that? Yeah, because it's going to be less of a headache for you.
Yeah,
ultimately.
we're wasting their time by not doing that. We're wasting time by not doing it.
No, you're totally wasting time. Or if you feel, and you could feel it, right? You could usually feel it in emails or conversations. If you feel that you have a chance to settle it with them, then settle it with them. But if they're just fighting and they're giving you just a complete bullshit. Can I curse on your podcast?
And that they're not. Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, and they're giving you that bullshit denial of just wear and tear and all the crap that they always throw at you. And you send one email, just send one. Just, hey, look, I don't agree with you because of this, this, and this. And keep the script, because again, I'm always trying to come up, like literally every day. I think my job as a business owner is to just try to come up with ways to free up my time. And just by having a script, you know what? Yeah. They got scripts. Why can't we have scripts? Well, save it. Your arguments are all the same anyway. Send it. If they don't respond within 7 days, just send it to litigation. And I hate to do that because we've got a big issue right now in Florida with the litigation stuff. But if you're going to fight me on it, I need to keep my sanity and not get bogged down by those long emails. Because, I know those emails, I sent one yesterday and, I have to send at least not as many as I used to, but I'm sending at least two or three of these emails a week, and it's exhausting.
When it gets to the point where you don't even think they're reading your documentation, it's time to go to litigation.
I think so. And if you're signing enough claims, you got enough backed up in litigation, it's nice every couple of weeks or so, eventually you get to a point where you just get a check in the mail.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't remind everybody that's listening to this, and it's different across different states. Make sure you're checking your policy as to how long you have before you can, you have a certain amount of time that you can file suit in. In Oklahoma, it's 1 year.
Oh, wow.
1 year from the date of loss to file suit. And Texas, I believe, is 2 years. I don't know what it is in Florida.
They're always changing it. It was 5 for a while because it was 3 for us and it was 5 for an attorney. I think it's down to 3 now. I think it's down
You've got to check, make sure you're checking, and the policy document will tell you that. So whatever,
but it's only 3. It's only 3 if you actually filed, it's like a reopen is the only way. It can't be like a new claim. Like it's only 3. I think we have 2 years now. They've cut it down to 2 years to file a new old claim, right? With an old date of loss. It's 2 years. And then I think the litigation, it's either 3 or 5. I keep thinking it might be 5 with litigation. I don't know.
Man, and it's just crucial if you want to make sure that you're keeping your clients, best interest at heart, know that information.
For sure.
I still encourage everybody that I talk with, read your policy, especially, even if it's just some of the sections so that you know that they're different, what you're dealing with in the policy, the duties after a loss. You're going to want to read the claim settling practices or whatever, how they settle a claim. You're going to want to look into, kind of like the necessary construction costs, the things that they'll pay for if they require certain things. I know that I have left a lot of money on the table that they said that they would pay for in their policy. And one of those things I believe here in Texas on a couple of policies that I've looked at is our fees. Now, Texas policies may be different than Florida policies. And so again, I would tell you to check your policy, and I'll do how you get your fees paid in another video if I actually get it to work. I have not actually had it to work, but I've got a solid argument and a theory that I'd like to work. So, which kind of brings me to my next subject, Vince, how we met, how this thing blew up for you. I mean, commercial claims advocate. Man, I want to help you blow this thing up. Like you have no idea, because when I became a public adjuster, again, I had quite a bit of experience, even negotiating with desk adjusters prior to me actually getting my license. My license was because I was fed up with not being able to argue the policy, which I knew. What made you think of this? What was the rub? What was the pain that you felt like you had to go solve?
I was on a flight. I mean, you want the truth or you want like the whole, the kumbaya story?
Both.
The kumbaya story was I just wanted to help others and I wanted to help public adjusters. The truth is I had the travel channel, which we were talking about before we started recording. And I was trying to figure out a way to my one goal. Have you ever read The One Thing?
I have not yet.
You mentioned it. You mentioned it over the weekend. We haven't gotten it yet.
So the one thing is basically one ultimate goal that you have in your life, and you break that one goal into like 10 years, 1 year, 1 month, 1 week, 1 day. You break it all down, and how you break it down to today. Like, what do I have to do today to get to that one goal? And my one goal at the time, which has kind of changed because I have a child now, and I don't know if it's still my one goal. It has an idea. My one goal was to travel full time. Like that was my goal. I just wanted to go and I wanted to travel. But obviously I'm in the service industry. So I was trying to do the travel channel. I'm trying to get that going. And I'm like, how am I going to blow this YouTube channel up if there's a million travel channels? Maybe I could talk about photography. Maybe I could figure this out. I couldn't really think about it. And I was actually on a flight to Colorado with my partner at the time. And I got Crush It. I think it's Crush It by Gary Vee. And I'm reading this book and it's talking about give away free advice, give away free advice, give it all for free, give it all for free. Don't charge, give it away, give it away, give it away. Eventually something will happen. And the whole time half the time I'm reading this book, I'm thinking about the YouTube channel, the travel channel. I'm like, how can I do it? I couldn't figure it out. And then all of a sudden it was just like a lightning bolt hit me. Like, I'm like, public adjusting. Like I could just give away free public adjusting advice. I already knew how to edit videos. So I said, because I hate editing, right? I'm going to just set the camera up. I'm going to shoot it one take. I'm going to just add a couple titles, and I'm going to come out with the YouTube show. But before I started, at the same time I was doing that, so I wanted to either do, my first goal was I wanted to do a new show every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I'm like, that's going to be too much. So I decided Tuesday, Thursday. And then I was like, that's going to be too much. So I was just every Wednesday. And I mean, I don't know, you look at one of my first, I mean, I think I set it up on the desk. I had a super wide angle. Like, to me, it looked like crap right now, but it was just consistent with the free advice. And my goal was, actually, it was not courses. It was not anything. My only goal was to establish myself as an expert in the industry. And there's tips that he has, like comment on the groups. So I started joining a bunch of groups. I started commenting on the groups. I started posting a video every day on Facebook and Instagram, and then my weekly YouTube channel. And all I wanted to do, this is my initial goal, was to establish myself as an expert in the industry, to eventually write a book, to sell that book, and make money while I
traveled.
travel.
Yeah,
that was my ultimate goal. That was the goal, was I just wanted to find a way to turn my service into a product that I can make money on it while I travel. And then it just, I mean, it's made so many turns, twists and turns. You know, I remember searching public adjuster on YouTube and finding nothing. There's like 2 other guys there that don't really do much of anything. Like, there's literally nothing.
That's how I found you. We couldn't find any help. We felt like we were on an island. And then the place where we did get help, I tried to get help, was not very friendly. So we were like, and then you kept popping up, your videos kept popping up. So I was watching those. And then I found out about the course, and I was like, Jeremy, you've got to take this course. This is the only guy out there who's willing to help you.
Yeah.
You know?
That was a tough decision, because that's always tough when you, like, when I decided to actually start charging, that was a tough. Milan did not want. Milan was like, no, you need to keep giving it away for free. And I'm like, well, we're going to have to come up with this decision eventually. And, then I was doing the YouTube channels for like probably 6 months. And then I started the LLC for Commercial Claims Advocate. And then we started with the one-on-one course, because I was afraid that my content that I put into the course I was just afraid it wasn't any good. So I was like, let me just charge money for one-on-ones, and we're going to keep it at 10 max. And I remember we had like 20 people register, right? Which was great at the time. And we had 10 one-on-ones. So that course that you did, Jeremy, that was like 2 full days. At the time, it was 1 full day because I didn't have the experts. But that 1 full day where it's all me,
yeah,
I did that 10 times in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the course has evolved since then, but it's basically the same idea. I did that 10 times in 2 weeks, one-on-one. And the reason why I did one-on-one is because, as a tennis instructor, you know, our pitch was always private lessons. Well, you make more money, but you get more attention, right? And you're going to learn a lot more if you're one-on-one. So I figured I couldn't lose. I said, even if my content sucks, even if my information sucks, at least I have the experience and the knowledge where people will be one-on-one with me. They could ask me questions and I could help them like that. So I figured it was foolproof. I was right. It was just a lot of work. And now it's just like, now it's like a thing. It's pretty cool. I never thought it would get to where it is today. And honestly, I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. In my opinion, I think it's just literally, I do think, you know, a lot of these influencers, you'll be surprised. You look at their oldest video and it's always like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. You got your big influencers in the country, you know, they've been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. They've been like out there speaking and stuff like that. So, I mean, I've been doing this for like 2, you know, so I mean, I think it's the tip of the iceberg.
Well, I would have to agree with you, because there is a definite shortage in it. And as far as education goes. And one of my motivational giftings is a teacher. That's what I like to do. I mean, I can't stand in a gas station and somebody ask a question that I know the answer to without wanting to insert myself. Now, as that may appear to be weird to a lot of people, if you're standing in a gas station, you know, and it could be something as simple as directions, and you hear somebody get bad information and it just grates on me. You know what I'm saying? And I have to insert myself and go, no, that's not. I've chased people down in the parking lots because they got bad information. You know what I'm saying? It hurts me. And so I have to rectify that. And one of the things that I thought was so great about your course is that it related to the people where they were. You know what I'm saying? There was just yeah, there was just absolutely no expectation of the
There's
individual.
no barrier to
in.
entry.
And I mean, it was just, you could come in and it could be your first day as a PA. You could just be studying for your course, that kind of thing. I mean, it didn't really even matter what it was. And there was something there. And then the people who did know something would jump in and answer these questions. And so you had all of these assistant teachers or these teachers' assistants standing around ready to answer questions about different state variations, you know, because you had people from across the country in the course that I took. And I want to tell you, it launched me without a doubt. It absolutely 100% launched me, and it ignited my passion. And I will tell you, like, even your monthly Q&As that you have for course graduates, man, I mean, there have been plenty of times that I have gotten on that Q&A and I was like, I'm going to ask this question and we don't get to it. That's on me, because I'm sitting there listening to everybody else's stuff. And then your Facebook page, you know, when you can get on there and answer a question, I will tell you, I have been all over that Facebook page since the day I became an advocate. And I will tell you, there is not one snide remark that has been made to anybody on that. Now, other than aside from just good fun, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
you know,
it's awesome.
I learned a long time ago. I mean, I don't know, a long time ago, but I learned not that long ago. It's very important to surround yourself with, you know, I call them game changers, with really good people, with smart people. I mean, the last Q&A, I think I said 7 words.
You hardly said any. Hey,
It was
welcome
amazing.
everybody, and goodbye everybody.
It was amazing, you know, and I mean, and you know, the ego's always there a little bit, right? Like for the course, and I remember your course in particular, we had Sarah Parker, she's like a whiz, right? And you know, you got to like put your ego aside. And when you do that, I mean, it made for a great course, like with you chiming in and Sarah chiming in. And I don't know if Carlos was on that one, but like everybody chiming in, and I just take a step back and I'm like go after it. You know, we have to like think, you know, because the thought crosses my mind. I'm like, oh shit, man, I'm the instructor here. I'm supposed to like, you know, but no, like, don't do that. Right. We need to like step aside, allow others to sort of, we don't know everything. Even though I've been doing this for 14 years, I have to admit to myself, and I'm okay to admitting to others, even I don't know everything, you know, like, especially like the little tidbits on Xactimate and stuff like that. Like, I don't know that stuff. You know that stuff. So I'm going to allow you to interject there and say what you got to say. And ultimately, because we support each other, because we respect each other, it just makes us both like elevate. It makes us both like look even better.
You can't get enough knowledgeable people in this industry because they're very hard to find. So
I learned that, and like even now we've got a guy in our team who's just like rocking the house, right? And I'm putting him in a leadership role. And there's a lot of times where he starts talking in a way where I could easily get offended by it, just because ego, right? But I learned, you know where I learned this from? Honestly, the first time I truly learned this is going to sound funny, but it's the God's honest truth, was when LeBron James and Chris Bosh went to go play alongside Dwayne Wade. And Dwayne Wade was the star. Dwayne Wade was the all-star. And he was able to put his ego aside to bring on arguably the greatest player of all time, because he knew that by having him alongside, they were going to go win the championship.
Could only make them better.
That was a big one for me. Honestly, I know, again, it's sports. Some people don't care about sports, but that one I'll never forget. I'm like, that's amazing. Like what Dwayne Wade was able to do, to put his ego aside, to say, no, I won't be the star anymore. I mean, that guy, Dwayne Wade, by the way, is like the mayor of freaking Miami. And he's like, no, I won't be the star anymore. And then what I noticed when LeBron came in and Bosh came in, who were also putting their egos aside, stars of their own team coming together, all it did was elevate all of them. And it was just really cool to see. I was able to sort of nitpick at that. I was just like, that's like pretty incredible, where there was zero backlash, except for the fact everybody hated that they were together because they were jealous. But, there was zero, like, as far as like on an individual basis, all it did was elevate each of them individually. And that's why in our company and in everybody else's company, like we can't do everything ourselves. And we have to sometimes set our ego aside to bring on the talented people. Or like, Jeremy, we're going to try to bring you on as an instructor. We're definitely going to put you as one of the experts. Let's get more intelligent people on there. It's only going to elevate everything, and ultimately for me as the quote unquote leader of the whole group, no, that's okay. Like, I'll go off here and let's elevate the entire, and it only elevates everything, but it's tough to realize. It's tough for some people to realize that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm a visionary. And so if you want to hear what I think about commercial claims advocate, we'll do that at some point in time, because there is a lot of people out there that are not, and I'm not just talking about the IAs that are leaving the industry, but the opportunity for people to get into this industry. And it's not just because it's lucrative, it's work that's worth doing, and so any work that's worth doing is worth doing well. And so, and I would say that's not me, that's somebody else. That's what I love about the course that you offer. And there's other courses out there, and I'm not speaking anything against them, but I'm going to tell you, the biggest thing that I find that's amazing about you is that you're so encouraging, and accessible. And again, that's nothing, it just kind of fits. It just fits my mantra. It fits kind of who we are here at Remedy Claims. And if you want help, and knowing how to be a public adjuster, there is help, and there is no reason to not come get the help, because we are ready to impart the knowledge. And I can't say enough about how it has really changed my career, not just from a financial standpoint, but from a community standpoint, where you've got other people behind you, and that I can't say enough about.
Yeah, it's important, I had my awakening moment when I was 26. I'll never forget. It was a pretty aha awakening moment that I had. And I realized sort of what I was put here on this earth for. And one of the reasons is to help others, to assist others, to teach others. I want to be the go-to person in my family. Like that's like my goal, is to be the go-to. There's a cousin of ours. He's like my uncle / cousin. He's like the go-to guy. And I remember, like, I want to be that go-to guy for my whole family. Whenever they can call, they can count on me. And that goes for sort of everything else that I do. But what I've realized is every time somebody asks like, what's your why? What's the reason why you do things? It's usually actually very similar. Usually other people are sort of on a similar level, where they want to help others, they want to assist others, they want to do things. So, by me bringing in other people and allowing them to also contribute in helping others and doing that, it just increases the whole like camaraderie, or the kumbaya aspect of it, of just being stronger together. Together we could really just take over the industry. And then ultimately it just leads on to just, what are we doing here? We're helping our policyholders. Right? We're coming together because the more knowledgeable we are and the more knowledge we're sharing, ultimately we're helping our policyholders. And ultimately, if we're helping our policyholders, we're settling for more, or we're settling more, or whatever it is, we're also helping our bottom line. So it all it all runs together and helps. And, if I'm having a bad day, or I'm looking at my bank account and I'm like, oh crap, this is getting lower than what it's supposed to be, or I get frustrated about whatever, I just remind myself like what my purpose is and why I'm doing it. And like, I like to think, although let me tell you, life throws some freaking crazy curveballs sometimes. I like to think that what's the worst that could happen? Like, if my purpose here on a daily basis is to do what I can to help and do, I think ultimately I'm going to be okay. And I think we should, I think that's why the three of us get along. I think you have a similar passion and similar why, is what I call it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Don't cut me loose.
I'm the guest this time.
Right. Don't cut me loose. So, just to kind of close things out, where is one place that you have not gone that you are just absolutely dying to go?
Traveling?
Yeah. Travel wise.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Man, one of my favorite places that I ever been was Africa. I've been there twice. That was incredible. But places that I have not gone that I'm dying to go, I really want to go to South Africa. I have not been to South Africa. I'm dying to go there.
I've been there twice.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm dying to go there. There's also a lot of places that I got to go back to, man. Like we went to Chile in the Atacama Desert. I want to go back there because the night that we went to go see the stars, it was like a full moon, so it kind of hurt us with the stars. Australia is like, I feel like what keeps popping in my head, but I don't think there's too much there. I want to go there. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about one place, I would probably say, you know what I want to do? What I'm dying to do is I need to finish climbing these mountains. COVID has really screwed that up. Like we did Kilimanjaro in 2017. We did Everest in 2018, Everest Base Camp. So I didn't go to the top of Everest, but that's enough for me.
I hear a Sound of Music song starting.
What's that?
I said, I can hear a Sound of Music song starting.
So the next one we have to do, we have to go to Aconcagua in Argentina. We have to do Elbrus in Russia, which I don't know if that's happening anytime soon. And we have to do Denali in Alaska. So, Alaska have you been there?
I have not. I want to go there.
We went there in the summertime. We didn't go in there in the wintertime, but Alaska is incredible. I mean, you literally see moose walking across the street. It's like amazing.
Have you ever been to like Cyprus or Greece or anything like that?
I haven't been to Greece.
Well, I've been to Cyprus. Cyprus is really, really cool. I'm pretty well traveled too. I've traveled all over the Eastern Bloc. I've been to Russia 4 times. I've been to Ukraine 3 times. Hungary.
Wow.
Czechoslovakia. Budapest is very, very cool. That is a city worth seeing. Austria, Germany,
I have never been to I've been to Germany, but all those other places you said I have not been to.
Well, yeah. So the Eastern Bloc is really cool. And if you get a chance to go to Russia, I recommend you stopping off in St. Petersburg. If you're into museums, the Hermitage is a week's worth of looking at stuff.
Prague is another one I keep hearing about. I'm dying to go to Prague.
Prague is really gorgeous. Vienna, you could eat off the subway floors in Vienna.
Wow.
Now they're not very accommodating to Americans. I will tell you that. I was standing in the subway at Vienna and the train pulls out and like on the mosaic tile, it says, in English, it says, are you having trouble getting around? Learn the language.
Oh, that's funny.
So
instead of a sign.
All right. If you could, either the book that most changed your life, excluding the Bible, I want to exclude that one because I don't want that to be the perfunctory answer. If there was one book that you've read that's changed your life, what would you say it would be?
I'm always terrible at answering these questions, but to make my life a little bit easier, because there are a lot of books, you and I are always discussing books, but it's the one, it would be the last one that I read, that I recommended to you the other day, which is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I mean, that book.
Search for Meaning. That is okay. I will certainly put that one on that one's already on my list because we talked on Saturday, but
he's a psychiatrist. He's a neurologist. He's a doctor he's a freaking doctor. And at like 30 something years old, he gets thrown into a concentration camp. He goes straight to Auschwitz. He's a Jewish, concentration camp survivor. And the guy was able to find meaning in it. He was able to understand the importance of suffering. He was able to the importance of just like the little things, like when he would get an extra piece of bread or something like that, and how lucky he was to go left on this one day instead of going right where they all got burned. And the fact that somebody could find meaning in probably, I have yet to think of a worse situation, not cancer, not, pretty much any disease that you get, is really not that much worse than that. When you really try to think and put yourself in that moment, even if you have MS or something like that, concentration camp, like you literally can die at any single moment. And he was able to find meaning in that and not necessarily fear death while he was there and have the courage to go on and have the hope. Because he says everybody that died was because of hope. They lost hope. Anybody that died of natural causes and everything. And that book just blew my mind. I would recommend anybody to read that. Like that's like a necessary one.
Well, Vince, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate it. This has been the Pain of the Claim podcast, where we are handing out prescription strength claim relief. So we're doing everything we can. Again, Vince, thank you so much for coming on. And always my lovely host, Donna. I happen to be married to her too, so she
Thanks.
Lucky you, man. Lucky you.
So, Vince, thanks for all that you're doing, and I look forward to working with you a ton in the future.
For sure. Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it.